Welcome to the Swing Trading with Cycles channel. We're going to do our update on Dixie today, the US dollar index. It is March 18th, 2023. This is your weekend update. We have a full candle complete. Definitely take a look at the pinned comment, past videos on all asset classes, everything organized by playlist, but also some important reference materials around price action, cycles, etc. And so speaking of cycles, this is the daily chart for the dollar, and we can see we just had, or so let's just take this one by one here. So we had this rally that lasted 24 days so far. Let's just triple check that that is right, and it is right. So we made a low on this day here after this just massive cascade lower where you had all of these failed little rallies that just petered out. This is obviously different than those rallies. This has not petered out yet. It rallied for 24 days versus these little 3-4 day rallies. So more like something like this. Now the question is, so first off, this looks like it's pretty clearly our daily cycle high on day 24. And not a coincidence, we got right above this last significant swing high and then just collapsed lower. Now, that said, since that collapsed lower, we did have this big bullish outside candle on a daily chart. And since that, so that was on March 15th. And then the last 2 days after that, we've been consolidating inside that range. So that's your real important level. Just thinking very tactically, is the range of this big candle from March 15th. So that's a high of 105.103 and a low of 103.443. So almost a $2 range, which is huge for the dollar index. And so it's a pretty simple situation here. This is a consolidation. And once that consolidation is over, we're either going to break to the upside or the downside. You don't have to worry about trying to predict which direction it's going to be. Just wait for the signal. More specifically, we're going to be inside of this range of these two candles on Monday. And so a break below this low here at 103.687 probably tells you we're going to test this low here, and a break above the high of this candle probably tells you we have a chance to test this high here. Now, your real question is that bullish outside candle, is that actually a daily cycle low? And that would be day 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Definitely could be. Again, things are, and also keep in mind, we have the FOMC meeting next week. So that's going to be really pivotal. That's really going to tell us, right? We're either going to get an explosion up or an explosion down. And again, trying to guess which direction it's going to break in is a little bit of a fool's errand, I think. If we look at the weekly chart, big implications here. So just to recap, this appears to be your 3-year cycle high. That was back on the last week of September. That was week 17 of this weekly cycle rally. So we rallied for 17 weeks and then we declined for 18 weeks. Really interesting, the symmetry on this thing. We made a lower low below this low here, and then we bounced pretty violently. And so now think about that for a second. We just talked about, was day 24 the daily cycle high? So we're now asking ourselves, that day 24 high happened on week 5, right? This is your 5th week of this rally here. So this cycle lasted 35 weeks, and now and that was a 17-week rally, and now we've had a little 5-week rally. So your question is that the end of it, right? So you had this big move down, this move up, and now we're going on to make lower lows, or are we going to do something that's going to look more like this, and then the implication is that this would become a higher low as we keep moving up. That's not going to cooperate with me. You get the point though, right? Like we do something like that. So pretty binary here, right? And because we're in a 3-year cycle decline, surprises tend to come to the downside, as they say. Again, it's a Fed meeting next week, so we'll have to see. But just very tactically, we closed below the previous week's low this week that just happened. And again, so that makes this week on week 5 a swing high. See, like this close was below this low. And just to be clear, that low is 104.039. And so what we want to see, and again, we'll have the Fed meeting so we can get a massive reversal, but we want to see how the week starts. Does it start like something like that? because that would be a new lower low below this candle, which already made a lower low below this candle. That would increase the odds that this is your weekly cycle decline. And keep in mind, if this is our weekly cycle high here on week 5, that's really early. I mean, think about this cycle that topped out on week 17. So this would be a top on week 5, which would be, again, really early. But you can see the dollar index has a history of doing that kind of thing. Here, this is a top on week 3, right? Like this is a top on week 6. So it's not unheard of, especially as we're in this like long, bigger downtrend. Look at this big downtrend. You have these tiny little rallies, 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and then it just kind of fails. So it wouldn't be surprising, wouldn't be shocking. And if we look at the monthly chart, the monthly chart candle is red. That's so always important to know the opening price for the monthly candle to get a sense of, or to a higher time frame candles in general, I should say, to get a sense of what it would take for it to go either red or green. In this case, we're obviously red, so we want to know what would it take for it to flip green. And the opening price was 105.042. So we need to get back above that for this candle to turn green. And again, it's the same. And that's why multiple time frame analysis is so incredibly important. Remember how we talked about the rally on the weekly chart, and is this a lower high? Well, look at this huge rally we had for 20 months into our weekly cycle, our 3-year cycle top. And now we've had this downdraft. And your question is it over? And now we're going back up? Or is this what we're doing right here? Is this just a lower high that's going to end in a lower low like that? So big implications here. And I suspect we're going to get a really big piece of evidence this Wednesday when we get that FOMC announcement to kind of see which way this thing wants to break. And so that is your, and let's also just last look at the quarterly chart, since that actually closes this month, of March. And so you can see the setup here is interesting because this is just a big doji candle that's made a lower low on the quarterly chart. And the candle before that had already made a lower low. Now, the fact that this is going green is definitely constructive, I should say. And if we were to make a move above the high of this candle, right, like imagine we got some kind of bullish, like imagine we get our daily cycle decline, our daily cycle low, and then we start a new daily cycle rally that takes us into the beginning of March. Imagine something like that. Because remember, March is going to be the first the first month of Q2. So however March shapes up tells us how the Q2 candle is shaping up. And across above this, again, that's 105 spot. That's 105 spot 883. That's your high on this quarterly candle. That would make this a quarterly swing low and a potential bottom, just like this was a potential bottom. And that was. That said, it would be incredibly early. I mean, look at all these other declines. We declined from multiple quarters. Multiple quarters. Whereas this has just been one quarter down with a close below the low of the previous. So it would be surprising if that were all the downside that there was for this. And of course, this has big implications on on precious metals and really risk assets as well. So this is going to be an important one that we're going to continue to watch. And if you look at UUP, which is one of the ways one would get exposure to this, you can see we actually closed the week green as opposed to the red week that we had for Dixie. So this is the ETF, but it did close as a lower low below the previous week's low. So we have the identical conditions here. So if anything, this could be setting up for an epic short back to below this low, right? So this low here is $27.22, and we're up here at 28.20. Wow. So that's a whole dollar move on UUP. That could be a double, triple, maybe even quadruple on some on some puts, I should say. So that is going to be really interesting. I'll be watching that pretty closely. And if we look at the opening price for the monthly candle is $28.26. So we want to watch that. A move above that turns this candle green. So that's your update on the Dixie. I have a separate video on gold, separate video on broader markets, nat gas, etc. Definitely take a look at the pinned comment. But this is an important one to watch given the broader implications. So we'll leave it at that. Thanks for watching.